The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. Josh Waitzkin is a unique authority on performance, having achieved world-class mastery in two vastly different disciplines. First as a chess prodigy, immortalized in the film Searching for Bobby Fischer, and then as a Tai Chi push hands world champion. His groundbreaking book, The Art of Learning, distills the universal principles behind these achievements into a powerful framework for excellence. Waitzkin reveals that true mastery is not about innate talent, but about a disciplined, introspective process of learning how to learn. This book takes you on an inner journey, teaching you how to cultivate presence, leverage adversity, and build a resilient mind capable of flowing with intense pressure. It is an essential guide for anyone, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, or students, seeking to unlock their deepest potential and perform at their peak when it matters most. The Foundation. My journey into the art of learning began not in a quiet classroom, but amidst the chaotic, vibrant energy of Washington Square Park's chess tables. As a young boy, I was mesmerized by the intensity and life humming around those concrete boards, a raw world that stood in stark contrast to the structured competitions I would later enter. This was where my love for the process was born, a love that would fuel my early life as a chess prodigy. Then I felt a deep need to explore the nature of mastery beyond the 64 squares, which led to my pivotal transition to the internal, physical art of Tai Chi push hands. This shift was not an abandonment of chess, but a continuation of the same core quest. 1. Innocent moves. My real education began not with complex strategies, but with a single, profound chess lesson. My first coach, Bruce Pandolfini, sat with me and focused not on memorizing openings, but on the quality of a few innocent moves. He taught me to feel the harmony and tension of the pieces, to understand the board organically. This approach stood in stark contrast to rote memorization. It was about building a foundational connection to the game's essence. A pivotal part of this was learning to use softer eyes, to relax my gaze and see the entire 64-square landscape at once, perceiving the subtle relationships between all the pieces instead of tunneling in on one threat. This early training embodied that you invest so deeply in the fundamentals that you eventually internalize them and can operate from a place of fluid, intuitive mastery. 2. Losing to win. Crucially, Bruce encouraged an investment in loss. A concept advises that you must actively seek out challenges and opponents that expose your fundamental weaknesses and be willing to lose repeatedly and without ego to understand your mistakes at the deepest level. This process is about studying each failure with intense focus to extract its hidden lessons. This entire mindset requires cultivating a beginner's mind completely free from the arrogance of presumed knowledge or past accomplishments. You must approach each moment as if you know nothing, ready to be filled with new understanding. In my Tai Chi push hands practice, this abstract principle was physically embodied in the demanding small circle drill. Here, we practiced the martial application within a brutally confined space, often just a few feet in diameter. This severe spatial constraint forced immense technical refinement, heightened tactile sensitivity, and immediate, unforgiving error correction. There was no room for sloppy large movements. From this demanding drill emerged the powerful making smaller circles principle, which extends far beyond martial arts. It is the art of condensing any movement, technique, or even mental concept down to its absolute, purified essence. By removing all superfluous motion and thought, you generate far greater power, clarity, and efficiency from a seemingly smaller, more focused action. This entire journey is fundamentally about using adversity. Every loss, every difficult opponent, every frustrating plateau is not a setback to be avoided, but essential fuel for your growth. 3. Two approaches to learning. Your path to mastery is fundamentally shaped by your underlying mindset, which psychologists frame as the entity theory versus the incremental theory of intelligence. The entity theory views skill as a fixed, innate gift, leading you to constantly prove yourself and avoid challenges that might reveal your limits. The incremental theory sees intelligence as a malleable quality that can be developed through dedicated effort, freeing you to embrace difficulty as a path to growth. This translates directly to your daily practice through the distinction between the performance zone and the learning zone. In the performance zone, your focus is on executing what you already know, minimizing errors, and achieving immediate results. In the learning zone, your focus shifts to experimentation, pushing boundaries, making mistakes, and absorbing new information. My early chess training with Bruce Pandolfini was a pure learning zone, where organic understanding was the only goal. This stood in stark contrast to the intense pressure of the national tournament scene, a performance zone where winning was paramount. I observed this conflict in scholastic chess programs that often prioritized trophies and rankings, potentially stifling the deep, long-term development that true artistry requires. The key is to structure your life around the learning zone, using the performance zone strategically to test your skills. This long-term development principle ensures that your growth is sustainable and built on a foundation of genuine understanding, not just a collection of short-lived victories. 4. Loving the game. Sustaining excellence over a lifetime requires cultivating a deep, intrinsic love for the game itself, for the daily practice and the struggle, completely separate from trophies or external validation. This love is the fuel that allows you to enter the flow state, that magical zone of complete absorption and focused energy where performance feels effortless and time distorts. A pivotal moment in my Tai Chi training captured this perfectly during a push hands drill. I was gripping my partner with intense, forceful tension, trying to control him through sheer muscle. My teacher, William Chun, approached and simply said, "Release the grip." As I relaxed my hands, I discovered a new kind of power, one that came from sensitive connection and yielding, not from domination. This lesson embodies the connection to your craft principle, where true artistry and power emerge from a dynamic, responsive relationship with your medium, whether it is a chess position or a martial arts opponent. You do not impose your will, you dialogue with the situation. This entire journey is built on a process over results mindset. When you fall in love with the nuance, the incremental improvements, and the beauty of the craft itself, the results become a natural byproduct of a fulfilling journey, not the sole objective of a stressful one. 5. The soft zone. Peak performance does not require a perfect, silent environment. It requires a resilient mind capable of entering the soft zone, a state of relaxed alertness where you are fully present and responsive, able to flow with distractions and internal turbulence without losing focus. This stands in stark contrast to the hard zone, a rigid state that demands ideal, controlled conditions and shatters under pressure. I learned this principle viscerally while learning to kayak in rough ocean waters. Initially, I fought against every wave, tensing up and exhausting myself, only to be tossed around and overwhelmed. The breakthrough came when I stopped resisting and learned to flow with the water's rhythm, using its energy to navigate. This is the essence of being like water, formless and adaptable, able to fit into any container and overcome the rigid by yielding. The practical application is the principle of transforming obstacles into fuel. Instead of resisting a distraction, an opponent's provocation, or your own nervousness, you learn to incorporate it into your performance. The noise becomes part of the music, the pressure becomes your focus. The soft zone is not about eliminating chaos, but about developing the capacity to remain centered within it. 6. The downward spiral. A single mistake need not be catastrophic, but when you react to it with frustration, you can trigger a downward spiral, a psychological chain reaction where one error leads to another, rapidly consuming your focus and destroying your performance. The key to halting this cycle lies in your ability to let go of mistakes instantly, without judgment or emotional attachment. You must treat an error as a momentary event, not a definition of your worth or ability. To do this reliably, you need a conscious process of recovery, a pre-practiced mental routine, a single breath, a resetting gesture, a key word that you can deploy to sever the chain of frustration and return your attention to the here and now, stopping the spiral before it gains destructive momentum. This requires returning to a beginner's mind, that clear, empty state where the last moment has no hold on the present. 7. Changing voice. High-level performance often requires the ability to consciously change voice, to make an intentional shift in your psychological and physiological state to suit the demands of the moment, such as transitioning from a relaxed learning mode to a focused, intense performance mode. This is similar to an actor's preparation backstage, using specific techniques to step into a character before walking on stage. You too can step into your performance persona. The mechanism for this shift is a trigger or ritual, a specific, consistent action or routine that you practice so thoroughly it becomes an automatic signal to your mind and body to change state. This works because of the principle that physiology follows psychology and vice versa. By deliberately changing your posture, your breathing, and your facial expression, you can directly influence your mental state, summoning confidence, calm, or intensity on demand. A powerful personal example was my parking lot ritual before major chess tournaments. The walk from the car to the tournament hall was not a neutral space. It was a dedicated transition zone. I used this time to consciously shed distractions, adjust my posture and breathing, and mentally rehearse my approach, so that by the time I reached the board, I had fully stepped into the focused, resilient competitor I needed to be. This deliberate practice of changing voice ensures you are not a passive victim of your mood, but an active director of your state. 8. Breaking stallions. The untamed mind is a powerful but scattered force, much like a wild stallion, full of raw energy but lacking direction. The path to mastery involves gently breaking this stallion, not by breaking its spirit, but by training it to focus its immense power. This is achieved through dedicated meditative practice, where you sit not to escape your thoughts, but to observe the chaotic internal dialogue with detached curiosity. You learn to watch the stream of your consciousness, the worries, the plans, the distractions, without getting swept away by its current. The primary tool for this taming is using the breath as an anchor, a rhythmic point of focus in the present moment to which you gently return your attention each time it wanders. This is not a process of suppression or violent control. It is an incremental taming, a patient, compassionate practice of noticing the mind has strayed and guiding it back thousands of times. Each gentle return is a repetition that strengthens your focus muscle. Over time, the wild stallion of your mind learns to respond to a subtle touch, its energy becoming a directed force rather than a chaotic storm. This internal discipline forms the bedrock upon which all external skill is built, allowing you to channel your entire cognitive capacity toward your chosen pursuit. 9. The power of presence. Your capacity to learn and perform is dictated by the quality of your attention, by your ability to be fully present in the current moment, undistracted by past regrets or future anxieties. This state of pure awareness is not a passive feeling, but an active skill, one I cultivated through the demanding practice of Tai Chi push hands. This martial art is a living meditation on presence. In push hands, you are not planning your next move in isolation. You are engaged in a constant, subtle dialogue with your opponent's energy. Your mind must be quiet and your senses hyper-attuned to the slightest shift in pressure, balance, and intention. This deep connection to your opponent is only possible with profound presence. This principle translates to any discipline as the critical difference between deep practice and shallow practice. Shallow practice is mechanical, distracted, and rushed. Your body goes through the motions while your mind is elsewhere. Deep practice is fully immersive, each repetition performed with acute awareness and a desire to feel nuance. In this state, you are not just repeating a skill, you are having a conversation with it, learning its deepest secrets. The power of presence is the gateway to this level of engagement, where the quantity of time spent practicing is far less important than the quality of attention you bring to each moment. 10. Searching for the zone. The zone, or flow state, that optimal consciousness of peak performance, often feels elusive. Ironically, the direct struggle for the zone, the conscious, forceful effort to grasp it, is often the very thing that prevents you from entering it. This creates a paradox. You must let go of the need to find it to actually arrive. The path to this release is not passive. It is built upon a disciplined pre-performance routine. This consistent sequence of actions, whether physical or mental, is not superstitious ritual. It is a practical method for conditioning your mind and body. It creates a familiar, calming structure that signals the transition from everyday life to the focused world of performance, making the zone more accessible by reducing anxiety and cognitive load. Ultimately, the most reliable mindset is to treat the process as the goal. When your primary focus becomes the intrinsic love for the activity itself, the quality of your practice, and the absorption in the present moment task, the pressure to be in the zone dissipates. You are no longer performing to achieve a special state. You are engaged because you love the engagement. In this space of authentic connection to your craft, the zone ceases to be a destination you search for and becomes a natural byproduct of your deep, process-oriented immersion. 11. Building your trigger. To reliably access your optimal performance state amidst pressure, you can build a psychological trigger, a specific, conditioned stimulus that acts as an instant switch for your mind and body. This concept is akin to an anchor in neuro-linguistic programming, where a sensory input becomes inextricably linked to a specific emotional or mental state. The process of conditioning the trigger is deliberate and precise. You must choose a simple, repeatable action, a specific breath, a touch of the thumb and forefinger, a single word, or a mental image, and then consciously and repeatedly pair it with the exact state you wish to cultivate, such as deep focus, unwavering confidence, or calm resilience. The effectiveness of this tool hinges entirely on the principle of consistency and repetition. You cannot use the trigger randomly. You must practice the pairing diligently, ideally in a calm environment first, so the association becomes deeply wired into your nervous system. My own personalized triggers have included a particular breathing rhythm that immediately slows my heart rate and clears my mind, and a subtle physical gesture that summons a feeling of relaxed power. Once conditioned, this trigger becomes a portable sanctuary. In the chaos of competition or the stress of a high-stakes situation, you can deploy your trigger and, within seconds, shift from a state of anxiety or distraction to one of centered readiness, taking conscious control of your inner world. 12. Making sandals. The anecdote of the traveler whose sandals break on a long journey captures two opposing responses to adversity. A novice traveler becomes paralyzed, sitting by the roadside in despair, utterly fixated on the broken sandals. The problem consumes all his attention, halting all progress. A master traveler, facing the identical situation, acknowledges the broken sandals but refuses to let them become the center of the narrative. His primary focus remains unwaveringly on the road ahead, on the destination he intends to reach. He embodies the skill of improvisation, creatively using whatever materials are at hand to fashion a temporary fix, to find any means necessary to continue the journey. This is the core of the adaptation principle, the ability to respond flexibly to unexpected obstacles without losing sight of your ultimate objective. It requires a fundamental shift from a problem-solving mindset, which gets mired in the difficulty, to a goal-achieving mindset, which is relentlessly oriented toward solutions and forward motion. In your own pursuits, a missed opportunity, a sudden injury, or a competitor's strong move is your broken sandal. You must not sit and lament the loss. You should acknowledge the setback, learn from it in a flash, adapt your strategy, and immediately turn your attention back to the road. 13. Bringing it all together. A true test of the learning process is its application under fire, a challenge I faced at the 1994 National Chess Championship. This was not merely a chess tournament. It was a crucible of psychological warfare, where opponents employed deliberate distraction, aggressive body language, and calculated intimidation to gain a mental edge. Lasting for days, the event also became a severe test of endurance, highlighting the inseparable body-mind connection, where physical fatigue directly corrodes mental clarity. In this high-stakes environment, I had to integrate all my principles into a seamless performance system. My investment in loss allowed me to recover from bad positions without panic. My soft zone training enabled me to flow with the distractions and pressure rather than fight them. I used my preconditioned triggers to reset my state after tense moments and maintain presence at the board. This synthesis transformed the competition from a series of discrete games into a continuous, flowing performance. When these principles are deeply internalized, performance transcends technical execution and becomes artistry. You are no longer just calculating moves. You are navigating a complex human landscape with resilience, awareness, and creativity. The championship was the ultimate demonstration that the art of learning is not an abstract theory. It is a practical, integrated system for thriving in the most demanding conditions, turning overwhelming pressure into a medium for expressive mastery. A final note: the art of learning is an ongoing process, a path you walk for a lifetime. The principles of resilience, presence, and deep engagement are not just for peak performance. They are for a meaningful life. The true mastery is in loving the path itself, the daily practice of growth. The tools are now in your hands. The responsibility is yours to carry them forward, to apply them, and to find your own artistry in the beautiful, endless pursuit of learning. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. Your interaction matters, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.